Great.
Hi, welcome to the 10-Minute Hemp CEO podcast. Today I have a special guest. His name is Ross King. Ross King and I connected on LinkedIn probably a year and a half ago. We've been talking about a couple deals. Ross has a company called Kind Roots Botanicals, LLC. It's a vertically integrated hemp farming and processing company. Ross, welcome to the 10-Minute Hemp CEO. How are you doing today?
I'm doing terrific. Thank you so much, John. It's a pleasure to be here. You are an incredible person, and I'm very glad that I hooked up with you on LinkedIn. You've done amazing things, and you've got a lot of good connections, and thank you.
I appreciate that, but this is going to be all about you. So I'm going to start jumping into the questions. What does your company do better than your competitors? Tell me about that.
So from the very start, when we were building our business, we wanted to make absolutely sure that we were able to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. And the main focus has been compliance and building a world-class facility. In addition to that, creating a custom inventory management control system. It's a software system that tracks every single step within our organization that is completely different than anybody else has out there. It's cutting edge, and it can tell me exactly how much inventory I have at any time, what goes from one place to another. Everything's bar-coded, Q-coded. We have all of our SOPs and quality control documents uploaded to this system. Just building the right business from the from the very beginning is crucial.
Yeah, I just got a tingle on my back of the head when you're talking about software and building something for your solution, because sometimes you go, that could be licensed and then make money for other people. That could make money for you in some other areas. So
yeah, absolutely, it could. And I could definitely sell it, but that's a thought. I didn't even think of that. But I tell you, it took me 8 months, 8 months of hundreds of hours on the phone with the developers. I wrote it, and then they took the HTML code and built it. And I tell you what, it's amazing.
That's great. So we'll have to talk about it offline. So
right.
what do you think is the biggest strength of your company right now?
Well, like I said, I think it's following the right process and having the right team and the right investors. I've got an amazing investment group that is standing behind me 100%. We've also got my investors they introduced me to some very powerful companies. So we're in the process of strategically aligning ourselves with some of the biggest players out there, which is amazing.
Well, can you talk about that? Do you want to say how much you raise, or is it a non-disclosure?
Know how much capital I raise?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put my business plan together, and on LinkedIn, I started searching for family offices here in Colorado, and from the day, so I put a huge hard money, not hard money, but hard earnest money, meaning that it is non-refundable, down on my 30,000 square foot building. I had 45 days to get that thing finalized, or I'd lose my down payment. I was able to raise $5 million in 32 days.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's from a family office in Colorado.
Yeah, from a couple.
Oh, from a couple. Oh, that's fantastic.
And these guys, they actually flew in a private chef from Japan and threw us a thank you party for allowing them to invest in this opportunity. Can you believe that?
Well, you're the prize, man. You're the prize.
They're amazing people. I'm very, very, very grateful.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you, why did you start the company?
Oh man, that's a scary subject, but I had no intention of being in the CBD business. We got into a horrific car accident. We lost a family member. I got my leg. Yeah, it haunts me. But I got my leg mangled, and they put a steel plate in there, and I was on all sorts of prescription drugs. And my wife said, "Why don't you try CBD?" And I kind of hummed about it, and then I tried CBD, and I went to a dispensary and bought it years ago, and it had too much THC in it. And then I found a company that had a phenomenal product, and I loved the product. I loved what it did, and I felt the energy out in the community. I became an independent distributor for them. I grew a very large base, and then I decided that I wanted to get my hands on the product. I mean, I want to touch and feel the plant. I want to grow the plant. So I started growing years ago, and last year or the year before I grew 300 acres. Last year I grew 150 acres. The year before that I grew 15 acres. And from there I just fell in love with the plant, and I really believe in what it can do and what it has for our, community as a whole and the planet Earth.
Well, I got to tell you, that's what I would call the why that makes you cry. That's awesome. Yeah.
That's what keeps me going every day. I mean, every day I think about that beautiful smile that she had, and it's keeps me going.
Man, I feel for you, buddy. Prayers to you. I'm going to kind of change the direction.
Take a breath.
Yeah, take a breath. But what was the biggest challenge you've had to overcome so far?
Well, the biggest challenge when you're building a facility is working with the manufacturers. You got to keep them on those tight timelines. And one of the things that I made sure I did when I was signing these agreements with them is I put very strict penalties. If they're 15 days late, I ask for a 10% discount in my purchase. If they're 20 days late, I ask for 15%. If they're 30 days late, I ask for a 20% discount, and they signed off on it.
Boom!
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, that equipment was there one day early. I'll tell you, every single manufacturer had it there a day before they just right before that 10% kicked in. But
I'm afraid people are going to reach out to you and say, who are you dealing with? Because these are the kind of people I want to work with.
Yeah, I tell you, I've heard horror stories of manufacturers that are 7-10 months behind. So it's been that was one of my challenges. The other challenge obviously is compliance. I mean, we've got to have the exact standard operating procedures. I've got, just a really, really, really clean facility. I mean, you can walk in there anytime and it's spotless. And when they're running their extraction or they're in the distillation, and there's a lapse in time between when that process is going to be completed, they're cleaning. They're making sure that place is, top quality. So I love it. But that was all, those are your challenges.
Yeah. Awesome. What does the winning look like you in terms of revenue or return for that investor, those family offices you talk about? I mean, what are they looking for?
The structure I had is that I need to get them back the full $5 million, and then I need to get them back another $5 million. Once they receive their $5 million back, it's a 50-50 split on revenue, on your end of the year profit, and then from there, once they receive a full $10 million back, they get 30% and I get 70%. So, I'm looking at by the end of this year, I should have at least 150% of it back to them, which is phenomenal. But that's not what they're really looking for. And they made it clear on my board call this morning. They said, Ross, if you need working capital, we're not gonna, we'll just give you an operating, capital loan. If that's ever, and they just brought that up, and those kind of investors you're working with are invaluable. And one of the things that they made it clear is that's not going to be diluting your equity. It's just strictly an operating capital, loan. And I'm not in that position at all. But the fact that they brought that up just gives you that warm heart feeling, that you're like, I made the right decision to work with these people.
You got into a relationship with a partner for the long term. It's a marriage without the possibility of divorce. And it looks like you made that right decision. And they made the right decision too.
They did. They're good people. I'm very, very pleased.
Ross, I got to tell you, 10 minutes went by really, really fast. And I want to thank you for joining us at the 10-Minute Hemp CEO podcast.
You're very welcome. And thank you so much, John, for all you do.
All right. I'm going to stop recording and